Good afternoon, everybody. This is the Real World Prepper. I am RWP, and let's weigh in on some other YouTube channels, shall we? I frequent a handful of YouTube channels I frequent. I mean, I catch most of their videos, if not all of their videos. There's other channels that I dip into now and again. There's other channels I've looked at once or twice. Just like anybody, I like some, I don't like some, or they're not my cup of tea, or some of them hit spot on, etc. A few of the ones that I watch regularly, and the ones we're going to talk about today, specifically their last videos from these channels I'm going to mention, is going to be Kansas Prepper, Zombie Farmer, Integrative Preparedness, Steve over there, and Guns Coast to Coast. Well, the exception, Guns Coast to Coast, I'm not going to speak about any specific video, kind of a synopsis of a general attitude that he has. But I'm speaking to the last videos as of right now, as of the recording of this video, which is, 5:30-ish Central on Wednesday, the 8th of September, I think it is, 8th something. I'm going to double check. Yes, 5:38 Central Standard. Anyway, on Wednesday, September the 8th, 2021. So, as of the recording of this video, whatever their most recent videos are, this is what I'm going to talk about. And I'm going to tie this together and explain why I think what I think. So Kansas Prepper put out a video. He talked a lot about, and just go check it out. I'm going to give this briefest of synopsis. He talked about basically the misdirection of, all the medical procedure that's going on because of the illness that's going on. Obviously, use some code words there. That we're being misdirected and distracted by that. And not able to pay attention to and understand fully, in some ways, what's going on abroad that affect us too. What's going on in Kabul, and what's the extraction or lack thereof in some cases, all the equipment being left behind, so on and so forth. All that, not to mention Turkey's involvement now, the general threats that we continue to have from the Chinese and North Korea, etc. So he goes on in detail about that. It's a good video. I say go check it out. It's informative. But he does mention that these are things that are going on that while we're being distracted by other things, all these wrongs and things going on, in the world. And basically the gist at the top of the video was everybody's head is somewhere else while worse things are happening. So Zombie Farmer's most recent video, he talks about it, kind of almost like picking up on that in a way, in the way that it seemed to me, in that saying, all these things that are going on, whose fault is it? Is it the Biden administration's fault? Is it, Fauci's fault? Overseas, is it the military's fault, or their leadership, and or again Biden administration, or was it Trump's fault? Whatever, and Zombie went on to say that none of that really matters, because the breakdown that we're experiencing, and I agree with this. I agree with the stuff Kansas was saying about distraction and stuff, that we should pay attention to all of the things that are going on, not only just here and with medical things, but all the things around the world. And I agree with Zombie in that, and what he goes on to say is that the breakdown has to do with in your own home, your own community, your own hometown, etc. And that we've, if you're either washed in the blood of Christ or you're not, and from my own experience, being a Christian, from my own experience, I can see, and I know those of you that are Christians can agree, that you can see people and family and their morals or lack thereof, or a breakdown of them, in how really they should be, as a thriving member of society, of a thriving society, if that's what we all want, that if you don't have God in your life, and if you don't make that a priority in your family, your own very family, your own very home, and everybody does that, and then everybody grows up in a world that is much better, and so on and so forth, is the gist of his video. I say check that out too. So I agree. So here we are, like I say, as Kansas said, being distracted, by all these things, and that there's so much more going on than most Americans pay attention to. And then Zombie, again, in my train of thought, adds, all of these things are so, and they are going on, and who shot John doesn't matter at this point, that we need to recognize that the breakdown is closer to home and not all the way across another continent or sea. And it's the lack of God and family values. So then you go to integrative preparedness, Steve Smith. And his most recent video, I forget what it was called. Whatever it was. It's the last one. He's walking. He's got a ball cap on. He's walking. He's talking about taking it easy, about not letting. So basically, starting from the top again, Kansas, like I described, zombies, like I described. And now Steve Smith at Integrative Preparedness goes on to say, yes, all these things are going on. Yes, they all are distractions. Yes, it is a lack of God, and it is a lack of peace in a lot of ways. And he goes on to say, and I added those parts that he didn't say that, but picking up the way that I saw it was that, he says, hey, we all have to take a break and decompress. Yes, this is all going on. Yes, we should pay attention to it and be aware of it. But we've got to enjoy walks with the family. We've got to enjoy, meals with the family, fun times. We've still got to have fun, at least enjoy ourselves and not be miserable and worried all the times because, first of all, it's not good for us. But secondly, it's not going to be helpful when things do crumble to the ground. And we all have to jump up and if we hadn't already started doing the groundwork or doing something, that, we're just not going to be mentally or spiritually or physically prepared. And I agree with this whole line that I just, the way I just connected these videos. I watched them actually in that order, and just on accident, just by happenstance. And they struck me in that way, that everybody was telling, each one of those people were telling part of the story of where we are and where we might end up or where we could end up. And that doesn't necessarily mean the outcome of the country, as the way it's laid out now. It really means where we individually, familially, if that's a word, our family, our community, how all that shakes out when all this does go down. Because ultimately, I think we all agree, even those other channels that I mentioned, friends of mine, okay, that we're not going to get out of this we're not going to get out of this. It's not going to end up the way that any of us might like for it to have worked out, So then go on to Guns Coast to Coast, who, in my opinion, the majority of his videos, the vast percentage, let's just be pragmatic here and say 75%, all right? Speaking of pragmatism, he is very pragmatic, and I find to be very intelligent, and his take on all of this stuff, from what I mentioned from the top to the bottom, to what's going on, what we see, what we don't see, how it's all part of a plan, it's a breakdown of the family is where these evils start, and that where we allow this to continue so long is because we're not grounded, in God. And then Steve Smith talking about, not taking ourselves too seriously all the time. We've got to have some decompression time. He also adds at the end of that video the importance of a God-centered life, and to not only pray to God and ask for discernment and ask what it is His will for us is and what we should be doing and where and when and how, but then also to go and do it. So Guns Coast to Coast adds, wrapping all of these things together and saying, it's basically, he's just so clear. I told you at the front end I wasn't going to use a specific example for him, but he has a way of explaining things that touches on all of that stuff in a very succinct way, in a very smart way, in a very pragmatic way. And I appreciate that about him. I appreciate these traits in all of these men and channels that I have just mentioned. And let me add, from my 2 cents, that again, that not story, but that the way that all played out in my mind as I watched these videos and how I cycled this information, and then considered, having not watched a guns video today, because he didn't put one out, I don't think, but then considering the way his mind works, which I think about after listening to a lot of his videos, I put it all together, and I come to this. I agree with that whole synopsis. All of those points by those men on those channels. Kansas Prepper, Zombie Farmer, Integrated Preparedness, Steve, and Guns Coast to Coast. And I wash it all, right, through the God laundromat, right? Look at it through God lenses, through discernment, through being still, praying and listening. And it comes down to good and evil. Because that breakdown in the family, if that's the start, or the lack of a relationship with God that all leads to the breakdown of the family and so on and so forth, it's good versus evil. This is not, those who got the medical procedure versus those who didn't. It's not those who voted for one guy over another versus, it's not this country versus that country. While a lot of the playing field will be that way, will look that way, ultimately it is about good versus evil. This is where our prayer should be, is that good prevails and evil does not. If you read the Bible, and many of you I know here do, then we already know how this is written out, but no man knows the time of the hour when God's going to return, right? When Jesus is going to walk back on the earth. So that being said, we should try and live our lives not assuming that we're close to that time, although many of us believe that we are. I do believe that. But we should focus on the everyday good versus evil battles that come in front of us. That's where we can start the fight, okay? And it goes all the way to the top, and it may include taking on physical manifestations like we've already mentioned in different ways. But understand that it is good versus evil. It was just some thoughts I had. I wanted to share that with you guys. I appreciate that was easy for me to say. I appreciate you guys watching. I'm on Patreon, as you know. I got an email address, a P.O. box. It's all in my about section. I'm also on Telegram. Join if you hadn't to any of those things. I appreciate it. Thanks for watching. Thumbs up, like, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. You get the deal. Think about it, guys. Good versus evil. Let's protect our family, our communities, our homes, our states, our country. Let's pray for our leaders. Let's do all the things. And obviously, while preparing, we've got to prepare, because things are going to get rough. Anyway, I've rambled on enough. I appreciate it. Talk to you guys later. See ya.